much, Mr. Fiesel. That brings us to our final expert for this afternoon, who will give us the British point of view again, Ms. Eluned Haf, who is head of the Wales Arts International. And perhaps you could present your organisation and tell us a bit about your point of view of Brexit culture and the creative industries and the effects that will have. Ms. Haf, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Pnawn da, bon apremidi. Thank you for this invitation, committee. I'm Eluned Haf. I'm the head of Wales Arts International, the international arm of the Arts Council of Wales, a public body sponsored by the Welsh Government. I speak with the authority of the Arts Council of Wales, my employers, whose response to the outcome of the EU referendum last year has been widely published. I'll focus today on just 3 areas of potential impact: people and citizenship, European programmes, and the creative and the wider economy. However, some context is needed first. Wales is one of 4 nations in the UK situated on its western shores. We share our Celtic cultural heritage with nations of the Atlantic arc of Europe, and also with a rich tapestry of cultures within the UK. We're a bilingual nation, and Welsh is a minority language that's part of the EU network for promotion of linguistic diversity. If our identity is a complex one, so is the governance structure that underpins UK nations, even before Brexit. In the UK, cultural policy is a devolved matter. There are therefore 4 national cultural policies and a plethora of institutions responsible for their delivery. Brexit has brought this complexity to the fore, so we are grateful to initiative from the Creative Industries Federation, British Council that have brought voices together from all over the UK and the EU. Our sectors are intrinsically connected. Creative people thrive on the exchange of ideas and information. There are now a large number of European and international networks and programmes such as Culture Action Europe, On the Move, Literature Across Frontiers, which connect our UK and European counterparts. It's in everyone's interest to retain this collaborative approach. Surveys repeatedly show that the sector remains overwhelmingly committed to international cooperation. 96% of the sector voted to remain last year. We're European in heart and in spirits. We accept that Brexit has taken place, but the goal now, as relationships are renegotiated, is to preserve those things which helped creativity to thrive. In this respect, we are all in transition from being remainers to retainers. So many aspects of the cultural sectors across Europe are intertwined and interdependent. So unpicking them can feel a little bit like untying the tapestry of Bayeux. And whatever one thinks of the narrative of the canvas itself, its cultural value transcends centuries and reminds us of the need to work together for peace and prosperity. As negotiations commence and vested interests jostle for attention, we must not forget the cultural and creative sectors are big business for Europe. Oops, sorry. I'm so sorry. Thank you. In 2015, the creative industries contributed over £87 billion to the UK economy, 5.3% of total UK GVA, employing some 2 million people. This represents 7% growth since 2014, compared to 2.3% for the economy as a whole. It would be very easy for Cinderella to be excluded from the ball, despite being dressed for the occasion. However, we should not become seduced by statistics alone. I'm not advocating measuring our sector purely through numbers, but also to emphasise what it brings to our overall quality of life. What we have in Europe, in essence, is a single market of the mind, one that we in the arts and cultural sector cherish and respect. This is a phrase that was coined by Geraint Alvan Davies in a paper for the Institute of Welsh Affairs that looked at the impact of Brexit on education and culture in Wales and the UK. The paper stresses that there is no monopoly on ideas or culture. They are likely to emerge from deprived communities in West Wales and the Valleys or Silesia, as they would from Berlin, Bucharest or Birmingham. And we know the power of arts and culture reach well beyond the emotional response to a performance or the financial gain generated by the sale of a painting. The arts illuminate and give life to the wide range of strategies that underpin public life, from overcoming xenophobia arts and health to cultural tourism, public art to town centre regeneration. The arts bring meaning, authenticity and enjoyment to our everyday lives. They create and sustain jobs, enrich education services, bring people together. Which brings me to my first major impact of Brexit, I wish to note, that on people and citizenship. People are the sector's main asset, and their lingua franca is that of collaboration. Limiting their ability to move and to work in partnership is likely to have very significant consequences for culture and the creative economy of Europe. We already have a skills gap in the creative economy, and the ability to recruit from beyond our own borders is a very important factor in the growth of our sector. Arts organisation and business alike have major concerns over the loss of skills that Brexit could bring. So how can we retain what works, given the cards we've been dealt? Finding ways of retaining the freedom of movement of workers, if not of all people, is a goal of supreme importance, and current discussions around short-term temporary visas, as well as visa-free events, might form part of the final agreement. But the first step of this journey is determining the future of all EU citizens in the UK, as well as British citizens across the EU. Whatever happens, this sector depends on a partnership approach that enables artists and creative workers to move to where the work may be. And for touring and the international travels of orchestras, theatre and dance companies, frictionless movement between boundaries, unencumbered by legal impediments, is a gold standard worth aspiring to. We can expect these issues to be played out with acute sensitivity around the land border in Ireland. The long-standing relationship between the Arts Councils of Northern Ireland and the Republic is built on enabling a politically neutral environment that allows artists to work seamlessly across both jurisdictions. Brexit may mean that arts organisations that operate on very lean budgets with limited financial flexibility find themselves unable to cushion or manage the effects of fluctuations in currency, taxations and regulation of movement. The second issue I want to raise is that of the impact of Brexit on European funding programmes. You will, I'm sure, be familiar with the significant impact of Interreg and ERDF across the UK. From the Sage and Gateshead to Manchester's home, or Pontio in Bangor. Slow down. Okay, sorry. Sorry. Europe funding programmes have helped transform the cultural infrastructure of the UK. But whilst the structural funds have been designed to help poorer regions play catch-up, a recent Demos report has argued that there's a real risk that those regions will be the most adversely affected by the withdrawal of these programmes. So there could be significant benefits in retaining UK involvement in multilateral programmes, benefits that are applicable to the EU as they are to the UK. I stress that this is not merely a fear of loss of funding alone. The networks and partnerships that the Creative Europe programme has nurtured, the infrastructure developed for our sector, the expertise of working transnationally, these are things that cannot be measured in financial terms alone. And the impact of withdrawing that funding, whether it's Creative Europe or others, cannot be gapped purely by replacing loss of funding with country-specific replacements. The award-winning TV series Hinterland is a case in point. Funded through a media strand of Creative Europe, Wales's rural detective answer to the Scandinavian noir genre was shot back-to-back in English and Welsh, broadcast on S4C and various BBC outlets. It has since been sold to more than 30 countries and is available on Netflix worldwide. Okay, sorry. Ed Thomas, director of Fiction Factory, the series producer, sees the wider cultural benefits to the EU, not just in relation to his company. He says, and I quote, "Celebrating and nurturing the diversity of culture and language across Europe is vital, and our partnership has given a voice to a small country, its culture and its people." Retaining a membership of Creative Europe alongside other non-EU partners would help our sector directly and indirectly. From the sector's point of view, UK membership of the programme has compelling benefits. But I pose a further question. Given that culture is devolved within the UK, could the constituent UK nations become members of Creative Europe in their own right? Perhaps there are some precedents available through Interreg. The third area I want to comment on is the impact of Brexit on the creative and wider economy, and I appreciate that much has been raised already. If freedom of movement of workers is the lifeblood of the arts and creative industries, intellectual property is its currency and can only be addressed transnationally. The Creative Industries Council of England quotes that in the second quarter of 2016, some 78 million music tracks and 51 million pieces of film and TV content were accessed illegally. We should look at new models of partnership that build on mutual benefits. This would include retaining some key principles set by the EU, such as the EU country of origin framework, as well as the current definition of European works. There is a need for the UK and the EU to continue to engage actively on the digital single market, and in particular around copyright legislation. It is important that we retain the ability to exchange data between the UK and the EU responsibly and without onerous restrictions. Both parties should resist the imposition of tariffs on cultural goods and services. We all have a lot to lose if we kill the goose most likely to lay the golden egg. Last but not least, we should retain scope for continued public support for media and creative sector within new trade deals. The cultural exemption for large parts of the creative industries from EU trade negotiations should be agreed and maintained. In the UK, public investments through a combination of grants in aid and national lottery funding to subsidise the arts has provided a crucial nurturing ground for the commercial creative industries. So as I draw to a conclusion, I urge you to ask your national government to help the creative sector of the UK and beyond in our aim of retaining a partnership approach, culturally and economically beyond Brexit. We need to be global in our outlook. The cultural impact of Brexit affects Europe's prosperity and affects our citizens, not just because it deprives a generation of the identity they have taken for granted, but also because it potentially interferes with our capacity to be active global citizens, which can learn languages, study abroad, and appreciate the riches of cultures other than our own. Make no mistake, I firmly believe that offering citizens a diverse range of international cultural activity is fundamental to bringing progressive community relations that help to overcome xenophobia that seems to be everywhere at the moment. But whilst I personally may fear for my children's future in terms of the cultural misunderstandings that is prevalent locally and globally, I do remain hopeful that given the opportunity, their generation will do things differently. The sector I care for so much offers part of the solution in that it nurtures hope, authenticity and an understanding that reaches beyond borders. Culture and creativity matters to us all, and that's another reason for us to get this one right. Thank you.
Ja, vielen, vielen herzlichen Dank.
Thank you very much for that overview of the culture and creative sectors in both areas. Now we've just got 13 minutes